I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Sabina Brennan, who's a health psychologist, neuroscientist, and author who's on a mission to help everyone unleash their super brain, which, of course, is perfect timing for students. Sabina, you're very welcome to the programme.
Thank you so much for having me on.
You're more than welcome. So your new book, Beating Brain Fog, deals with a lot of what we want to cover here in terms of memory and general brain health. I mean, we know students have such a heavy workload just now, but what are the fundamentals to help them improve that all-important part, their memory?
Yeah, well, basically, based on the four pillars of brain health are to prioritize sleep, to manage stress, to exercise, and then to ensure that you nourish your brain through good nutrition.
Can you tell us, the purpose it serves? What's happening in our brain when we're sleeping that helps us lock in what we've been studying into our memory?
Absolutely. So sleep is critical to learning and memory and also to insight and ideas. So when you take information in during the day, as these students are taking in huge amounts of information during the day, it goes into a part of your brain called the hippocampus, which acts like a temporary repository for all the information that you take in during the day. Then when you go to sleep at night, we see electrical activity in your brain. So your brain cells communicate with each other through electrical and chemical signals. And so we see activity between that part of the brain, that temporary repository, and the frontal lobes in your brain to filter the information, to make a decision about what information needs to be remembered and what needs to be forgotten or discarded, because we can't, remember every piece of information we take in. Then a little bit later in the night when you're asleep, we see a change in activity and we see multiple networks in the brain become active as that new information that you've taken in becomes embedded in the brain and starts to become a memory, starts the memory consolidation process. Then as you go through the night towards early morning, when you've more dream sleep, which is called REM sleep, that new information is integrated with existing memories, existing knowledge, existing learning, and so becomes kind of enriched and embedded and helps you get insight and solutions. So if you don't get enough sleep after you've been studying, that won't happen. And so all your studying, in a sense, will be wasted because the memory-making process can't be started. If you don't get sufficient sleep, also, the hippocampus won't be cleared out.
Okay.
And so there isn't enough space to take in new information the next day,
So, gosh, it's amazing how tangible the sleep is on that, because we know exam students, and I'd have to say I'm guilty of this myself. There was a lot of cramming going back in the day, but talking to you has calmed me down that that's not necessarily the best way to go. But during stressful times, like studying for exams, and you of course have done so many at this point, our heads are often all over the place. That must affect our ability to learn and remember. Like, what can we do during the day to help with that?
Okay, well, I think the overall thing is exercise. Okay, you need to take breaks. And actually, if you take exercise at lunchtime and go out and spend some time in nature rather than working through, in the afternoon, you'll be able to overcome that lull that we often get in alertness.
The slump.
You'll actually... Yes, that slump. So if you go for a run or some sort of exercise at lunchtime, even walking very quickly, you'll be able to think better, you learn easier, and you will remember more. Also, I would say, don't do these long hours of cramming. It is counterproductive. Give yourself a regular time for study and take a break in the evening. You need to relax your brain so that you can go into sleep. Taking regular breaks to stand up and walk around every half an hour, because you can only concentrate for about 30 minutes at a time. If you allow yourself to become chronically stressed, it actually impairs the ability of your brain to learn and to remember. It particularly impacts on that hippocampus, that part of the brain that you need to be working well. Physical exercise actually induces neuroplasticity, which is the brain's capacity to change with learning. And that's what you want to do as a student. You want to harness that capacity. So exercise is really great for doing that. Stress actually suppresses neuroplasticity and stops your brain being able to learn, but it accelerates it in your fear centers. So you become this sort of person who can't think or take anything in because you're just constantly feeling afraid. And when it comes to food, Look, you really have to eat healthily. Your brain, the fuel that your brain operates on is the food that you eat. Rubbish in, rubbish out. Don't clog your brain up with garbage. Eat fresh, healthy food, lots of colorful vegetables. Get your protein from oily fish or nuts, and, olive oil. It really is critical. And it's critical that you eat regularly so that your brain has the fuel it needs to actually learn the stuff that you want to learn. You really are. You just regularity is absolutely key, and that comes to your sleep, exercising, and when and how you eat. And also, your brain is a thirsty organ. You've got to keep it hydrated by drinking lots of water. And if you do all of those things and be kind to yourself and only study for certain periods of the day, and then take a break and make sure you exercise, you will be much more efficient in your learning, and your learning will actually, be consolidated into memories.
I see. I think the issue for many students is they're clocking up the hours. They're sitting in the room staring at the books, but it's that thing of the next day, like what was tangible that I learned yesterday. What do I have to show for the work?
Take your 30-minute breaks. It's far better for you to take a full hour lunch and go for a run and sit down and have a really nice meal and then study for the next hour. That is far better than studying for that solid 2 hours. You will retain more. So you really have to manage it. If you think, that's why I'm so passionate about educating people about how their brain works. You have an incredible resource, and the teenage brain is particularly brilliant at neuroplasticity. It is particularly brilliant at learning. So you, in your teen years, are much better at learning than I am, as an older person. It is the prime time for learning, provided you treat your brain, give it the respect it deserves, and actually adopt a healthy, what I call a brain healthy lifestyle. And it really, really will serve you well. And it serves everyone well. I mean, the parents trying to cope with the kids, if they actually do that as well, that's essentially.
It all feeds in.
It all feeds in, because if you're stressed, you're going to kind of push that stress onto your kids. And to be honest, it really is about, if you're already stressed, it's about resetting your brain. You can reset it. You can revitalize it. Routine is critical. Your brain is constantly looking for patterns that it can turn into habitual behavior. So if you get up and if you get dressed and shower and study at the same time, your brain can automate some of those behaviors, which will leave more space in your thinking brain to take in new information. So even fundamental things like having a regular routine around how and when you get up and get dressed, once a behavior has been automated, it's unthinking and it requires less resources. So you'll have freer resources to
get
that
all
studying.
those experiments into your head. Listen, Dr. Sabina Brennan, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Your new book is out called Beating Brain Fog, and you've really inspired me about the teenage brain. That's very encouraging. So thank you so much.